spot, more or less, and getting onto the composite decking part of the industry. And this goes for people who are pressure washing, cleaning, landscapers, pressure washers, painters, anybody who's cleaning a composite deck, or those that are building composite decks, and some of the misinformation that I see online. So I'm in deck builders groups. One of them is 440, over 440,000 contractors or people in that group. Granted, a lot of them aren't contractors. A lot of them just don't have anything better to do but sitting tight, because they want to have a sense of belonging. And I get that, but there are contractors in there, and a lot of people are trying to find information and share information. But the problem with sharing information, if you share bad information, sometimes it takes on a life of its own. It becomes fact, and that happens. If you're in a pressure washing group, a painting group, that kind of stuff, I see things also that come up with decks and so forth. And what happens is they're talking about cleaning them and how to clean them and what do you do and can you use a pressure washer, can you not, so forth and so on. But I see no matter what group they are or what the trade is that these groups are in, the information gets shared is really wrong. And then you got to sit there and say, okay, well, who makes you the authority? How do you know what's right and what's wrong? Well, I have worked with Trex in the past. I know quite a bit about the old stuff and the new stuff. I also clean, restore wood, decks, that kind of stuff. But we also build decks, and we build all kinds of decks, and even expensive decks too as well. So let's get into this. And why are you doing this video, Everett? We want to know. Come on, Wizard, help us out. Okay, well, I've done things on composite decks, but never really tied it into the Facebook groups and stuff, although I have said stuff about misinformation. And this is on social media platforms. So a long time ago, Trex comes along, and they put out the composite decking. And when they did, there was no cap on it. Really, there's just a little bit of a coating on the top. And what happened was people would go at it with a pressure washer. And if you look at this, it doesn't look too bad. But on this side, you see all the wood fibers where it's been pressure washed. And what happens is when you take the pressure washer and you hit it with the power, it takes off that coating and exposes the wood fibers. Now, what happened with Trex is they told everybody, and most people did too, that mold and mildew was the problem with the old Trex. False. Part of it, because you get mold and mildew on everything, algae, but the oak, red oak that was used, the wood content, would have tannins in it. The tannins are what give wood its pigmentation and color. So for oak, it would leave a black stain, like the black leaf marks you get from oak leaves on your concrete. So they leach more to the surface. So to prevent that, they tell you don't pressure wash, don't expose the wood fibers. Okay, so with that, the old stuff, which is way out of warranty, you weren't supposed to pressure wash, okay? Now, that's pretty much out the window. But if you do get that today, it's a two-step process. You scrub it with a brush. Even if you did pressure wash, like I said, it's out of warranty, but it will mark it up. You use a cleaner with it, usually sodium percarbonate, if people use sodium hypochlorite and so forth, but they do that. And then you go and you put an oxalic acid or a brightener on there. The oxalic acid neutralizes the tannins and it gets it back to wherever. You're still going to have stains and so forth. It's just not going to look good because it's an older product now. But this was stainable or is stainable, and you could stain it. But eventually that gets passed too. That takes us up to the newer stuff. And we'll talk about cap composite. But as I mentioned about sodium hypochlorite, let's talk about that. Because sodium hypochlorite was not recommended or is not recommended to clean with a lot of decks. If you check your manufacturer's recommendations, which I suggest anybody do, I don't care if you're using Trex, TimberTech, AZEK, Wolf, Fiberon, Decorators. Always check your manufacturer recommendations for yourself. Okay, check the guidelines, check the cleaning and maintenance of it. Don't go by what somebody posted on Facebook. Don't ask a question in a Facebook group. These companies spend a lot of money on R&D. They have scientists, they have people working on this, people that are really, really good, and that's how they come up with this stuff, part of the way. So what happens is they put out these recommendations. That's who you want to listen to, not somebody in a Facebook group, not somebody, on some local, whatever your zip code is, group in Facebook, or anywhere else. So anyway, that goes with that. Now, Now, I mentioned sodium hypochlorite. Sodium hypochlorite is bleach. So the reason they don't want you to use that is a couple reasons. One is they have that warranty that's whether it's 25-year or more, and what are the effects of that sodium hypochlorite on it? So here, for you guys that are contractors that are watching this, okay, guess what? They're in the groups. They're watching what you post. And you post not only misinformation, but crap information. Because even though Trex, for example, says you can use 3,100 PSI on the new one, I'll get to that, on the new capped composite, we all know the pressure doesn't clean. Anybody who's done wood restoration or worked with a pressure washer realizes the pressure washer is just a large rinsing tool and the products and chemicals and so forth do the work. But you have to use the right chemicals. Sodium hypochlorite, you buy it at 12.5% as a commercial contractor, and then you go use 12.5% on these, and Trex and the people that make the recommendations and so forth for cleaning and maintenance see that you do that and say, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't let that on here. So what happens is you go and put bleach on there, sodium hypochlorite, you void the warranty. What happens when you void the warranty? Something happens to the product. Guess what? You bought it. If you're a contractor, use sodium hypochlorite when you weren't supposed to, and then you get a claim against you. Hopefully you have insurance. If you don't, then what? You're out of business in a lot of cases. I know of a $15,000. I know of a $60,000. I know of a $36,000 settlement from an insurance company because someone ruined the deck and they also voided the warranty by doing things specifically using sodium hypochlorite. So those people that say you can use sodium hypochlorite, you can soft wash it, guess what? Wrong. So those people that say, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a long time and I'm the most experienced guy in this group and all that. Guess what? People flex their muscles this way. Stop flexing your keyboard muscles because you don't know. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how long you've been building a deck or cleaning a deck. If you're wrong, you're wrong. It's that simple. So what happens is follow the guidelines. If Trex says don't use sodium hypochlorite, you don't use it. You use sodium metasilicate. You use deck cleaning products that are just for that. If you have to hand scrub. Now let's take it the other way. Those contractors that are still in those groups, and I see deck builders that do the same thing. They're actually installing the deck composites that they're actually telling you the wrong thing. Don't pressure wash the deck. You're not supposed to. Then why is Trex telling you 3,100 PSI is good on their composite, their capped composite? Now, this is different than the old stuff. These have capping, and that's the new composite. These withstand pressure. They're not fully exposed. And then people are still saying, oh, if you pressure wash it, you can ruin the coating. No, you can't. Not unless you're over 3,100 PSI. That was the old stuff that you very rarely see anymore. So BS is BS. Wrong is wrong. It's that simple. But how would you know if you go into a Facebook group and you see all these people posting and then other people jump on board and say, oh, you know what you're talking about. He's right. You're not supposed to pressure wash. Then why is Trex telling you 3,100 PSI is good? You know why? Because they'd rather you use more pressure than use sodium hypochlorite or chemicals that are going to hurt it. Now, the other thing, too, is some of this stuff used to be or still is that you run into PVC, which is a PVC capping. What happens is PVC, P is for plastic, it can plasticize. So some of these chemicals and things like sunscreen or anything in a metal can, they'll plasticize it and take the color out and ruin it. So that's trouble too. So you really have to know what you can use on these things. And I tell you, I go out, I talk to customers. Do you like to sit out there with the pets? Is it going to be too hot? Be careful of sunscreen. If you have little kids, if I see the little pool on a deck, you're not going to be able to do that and spray sunscreen on it, and then it gets on some of the deck. That's the problem. You have to know what you can use and can't use on these things. I'm telling you, as God is my witness, it drives me nuts. You see, I don't have any hair left because I pulled it all out. I look at these Facebook groups, I watch what these people post, and it's just wrong. And I understand a lot of it. People want a sense of belonging. They want to belong in a group. They want to say how much they know. You know, you're flexing your finger keyboard muscles. You're doing whatever. And sometimes it's well-intentioned. But again, if it's wrong, and then it becomes misinformation. I will tell you that listening to me now, I probably sound different than the Facebook groups, than a lot of the information you get. That doesn't make me wrong. It just makes me not loud enough. But I'm getting loud when I'm talking on this video. I'm animated because it's driving me nuts what I see. So no matter what it is, I'm just telling you, check your manufacturer's recommendations. It's always a good thing. It doesn't matter if it's just for the composite decking or anything else, whether it's the pressure, what chemicals, whatever you can use. I also see manufacturer recommendations for Trex, and the other ones uh, are different than maybe building codes, which there's not a uniformity there. But I see a lot of people, they'll go redeck a deck, and the framing does not adhere to the manufacturer recommendations of that composite deck. But people will slap a new deck on it, and then it doesn't meet the recommendations. And then when something goes wrong, they're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And this could be things from the width of your joist to the width of your stair stringers, all kinds of stuff on center. But there's a lot of that misinformation, a lot of stuff that people don't know. To get your best knowledge, check with the manufacturer. That's always the best way to go. I'm Everett Abrams. You don't have to listen to me. You can also check with the manufacturers. I think those guys put a lot into it. And stay off the Facebook groups with all that misinformation, because those manufacturers are reading it, and that's how they come up with these warranties. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great night.